Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leader in rushing, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We've got breaking news, as we've been reporting on this pretty much all week, that John Eric Sullivan is one of the top targets for the Miami Dolphins. Well, they have made their choice for their next general manager, and unfortunately, it is John Eric Sullivan. We'll dive into all of the details there and let you know what we're going to be losing in John Eric Sullivan. We'll show you his brief history, right? And we'll kind of dive into a little bit of all that and what it means now, the domino effect. Not maybe, it's bad enough you lose John Eric Sullivan, but now does he take Jeff Hafley? Okay, if you take Jeff Hafley, are they going to go after Malik Willis on the free agent market? There's a lot of stuff to unpack in this breaking news here. We'll also give you an update on Micah Parsons' injury and how that rehab is going, as he's been a little bit more vocal on Twitter. We'll give you some of his tweets, kind of highlight some of that stuff, talk about what he meant to the Packers defense and how it affects the pass rush, because some people think, oh no, what are we going to do with the pass rush now? Listen, it's not that the Packers pass rush is all that bad. It's not up to snuff, that's for sure. But what Micah was doing, I mean, this guy is still third in quarterback pressures on 3 or 4 less games than everyone else who's in the top 20 in quarterback. But it's a wild statistic. We'll dive into that. And then we'll give you a little Packers-Bears preview. I want to talk about how our defense matches up against the Bears offense as we go into game day tomorrow. So before we do that, if you would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning in to Packers Total Access, thank you for making us a part of your day. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you, talking Packers on a daily basis, breaking news every single day, and in most cases doing multiple streams per day. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live anytime here in the near future. Let's jump into it. Like I said, breaking news. John Eric Sullivan is the new general manager for the Miami Dolphins. And, this isn't really a surprise to us. We were talking about how he was one of 3 finalists, along with a 4th, which was the interim general manager for the Miami Dolphins. It seemed like they had their eye on John Eric Sullivan from the beginning. You guys know last year there was a heavy cycle of him, obviously getting interviews across the league for the next general manager position at multiple franchises. But he is the Miami Dolphins' new general manager. The news, I seen it first break from Diana Rossini, who said the Dolphins are hiring Packers VP of player personnel, John Eric Sullivan, as the franchise's next general manager. Adam Schefter went out and he confirmed that as well, said new Dolphins GM John Eric Sullivan is the son of Jerry Sullivan, the longtime NFL and college coach who retired in 2021 after more than 40 years in coaching. His father was the Dolphins wide receiver coach in 2004, the same team John Eric now leads as general manager. Pretty cool little history there. So obviously his dad being a coach pulled a little bit of his player background. John Eric Sullivan, I think he settled in as a defensive back, probably played multiple positions in high school. He was recruited, went to South Carolina, quit, and then came back the next year as a walk-on. And obviously his career fizzled out pretty quickly. So he was kind of an undersized defensive back. So he had a little bit of playing experience. Obviously grew up in a house where his dad was a coach for more than 40 years. This guy eats, sleeps, and breathes football. I think this is an awesome hire for the Miami Dolphins, as they're going to try to now build the Green Bay Packers in South Beach. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how everything goes down there. Now, we got Dave in the chat said, are we going to lose Jeff Hafley too? That would suck. There's a good possibility that we lose Jeff Hafley here, Dave. Now, again, just because we tie it to John Eric Sullivan, obviously being, a member of the front office there and everything that we've the way we've approached building a team since he's been here in Green Bay, which has been some time. We'll talk about his history here in just a second. It doesn't necessarily mean that he likes Jeff Hafley as much as anyone else. It's just when you've got somebody that you're familiar with, right? He helped go out and put together this defense for Jeff Hafley. Whether you think the defense has performed up to snuff or not, really makes no difference. The question is, do they see eye to eye in terms of how Jeff Hafley wants to operate a defense. If that's the case and that's his top candidate, yes, I think Jeff Hafley is going to be a top 5 choice for the Dolphins, me personally, although his name, to the best of my knowledge, has not been attached to the Dolphins job yet. I think he's going to emerge as one of the top candidates for sure. Unfortunately, I think that's going to happen. But that's kind of what we dive into next. I said Jeff Hafley to Miami watch is in full effect. So obviously the ties there that we just mentioned. Now, another one that kind of popped up, and it was actually in the comments of my tweet there. And you guys can go to that tweet and see who it was. I want to give credit, but I don't have Twitter pulled up. I just screenshotted this for a quick show purpose. But someone in the comments says, does this mean Malik Willis goes to the Dolphins? And I didn't even really think about that. You know, think about this. John Eric Sullivan, Brian Gutekunst's right-hand man, right? He goes out and they trade a 7th-round pick for Malik Willis. Now, you guys know there was a former Packers executive that was the former general manager for the Tennessee Titans that drafted Malik Willis. Obviously, he and Goody, I'm sure they still speak and all of that stuff. I'd say behind the scenes, Goody probably reached out to him too. Hey, what was the problem with Malik in Tennessee? And I guarantee you that general manager who lost his job that drafted Malik Willis is probably saying, no, he wasn't the problem, which proved to be true now. So probably relay that information back to Brian Gutekunst and obviously John Eric Sullivan being his right-hand man. I would imagine that Malik Willis will be on their radar. Now, for how much, right? And this is a fascinating story with Malik Willis because – you know, you've got Dan Orlovsky said he's going to get 40 to 50 million per year. Malik Willis will, right? There was someone else, a former player the other day that said something similar, right? I expect no less than $30 million that Malik Willis will make. But then you go to Spot Track and look at the fair market value, right? And they do the comp picks, snap percentage, all of that stuff. And that's the only thing really dragging Malik Willis down is his snap percentage, right? He probably played more NFL regular season football in Tennessee than he has Green Bay. That's the reality of the situation. So when you see his grade pumped up here, a 92.3 under Matt LaFleur in Green Bay compared to what he done in Tennessee, right? You would think, okay, man, he looks like a superstar in Green Bay, but we've got more tape of him in Tennessee playing, and it was really, really bad football, right? So you've got to kind of weigh all those things out. So I could see where Spot Track would go, look, yes, he's an electric football player and he's played great here lately, but is he really worth $40 million? I personally would not pay Malik Willis $40 million. But when you compare the other free agents across the league, like your Daniel Joneses, he's projected at $44 million according to Spot Track. Well, they got Malik at 10.5. So if you take like someone like Dan Orlovsky, who's going to pump up the numbers, he's a former quarterback, right? He's going to support his guys, his position. If you take his number of 40 million and you take Spot Tracks of 10 million and the other that's in between at 30, probably there's a decent chance I think he falls somewhere in the 20 to 30 million range, right? And that's definitely outside of the Packers market, right? You're not gonna have a quarterback sitting on the bench for $20 million. Now, if you could get him to the tune of what Spot Track said at 10.5 million, hell yeah, I would do that. I think he's proven to be valuable enough. You could give him a 3-year, $30 million deal, guarantee 20 million of it, and then even tack on 3 voidable years and spread that cap hit out to where he's only on the cap for 5 million per. You can make that happen. Unfortunately, I don't think Malik Willis is just going to go for that 10.5. So I think the truth is somewhere in between. But again, you can see how he's graded out. Now you notice that I had to remove the minimum snap. So if you remove the minimum snaps, it's basically saying it's a much smaller sample size. That's why he doesn't have a ranking there. But if he were to hold the level of play that PFF thinks that Malik Willis has played at, he would be the 2nd highest graded quarterback in the league, right? But again, it's a very small sample size. You can see Jordan Love comes in at number 5, playing far more snaps with an 88.5 as his PFF grade. And you'll notice you do not see Caleb Williams on this list. We're just mentioning that. So, just in passing there. But again, does that mean he's going with them to Miami? I think they'll at least make that phone call, right? I think that'll definitely happen. All right. What the Packers are losing in John Eric Sullivan as we wrap this up. So he started coaching at Gardner Webb in 2000. He was a student assistant. And then in operations with the Packers, guys, he's been with the Green Bay Packers since 2003. That's the year I became a Packer fan. Like, I didn't have a favorite pro NFL team. You guys know my story. I kind of rooted for the Steelers because my brother was a big Steelers fan. I was more of a college football fan. And then I learned about the Green Bay Packers history in 2003. And ever since then, I've been just a diehard Packer fan, right? He's been with the team as long as I have. That's funny to say, right? He was a training camp intern. And then the Green Bay Packers hired him from 2004 to 2007 as football operations department employee. So he's just a slappy in there, right? And then from 2008 to 2011, he was Central Plains Region Scout. So he's got the same pedigree, if you will, as a Brian Gutekunst, as a Ted Thompson, right, as a Schneider. All these guys that have kind of came up through the Packers organization, they're scouting first. They're draft and develop is kind of their process. Not that they won't spend money in free agencies. You've seen Goody do. You've seen Ted do it too. But they're scouts at heart. So he was Central Plains Region Scout. Then from 2012 to 2015, he was Southeast Region Scout. So he was in the SEC scouting, right? In 2016 and 2017, he was the director of college scouting. So he got that promotion. In 2018 to 2021, John Eric Sullivan was the co-director of player personnel. And then from 22 to 26, vice president of player personnel. And now, of course, he has been hired as the Miami Dolphins as their new general manager. So that's just a quick little breakdown of John Eric Sullivan and exactly what the Miami Dolphins are getting. If you're a Dolphins fan and you're watching this video, you want to know a little bit more about John Eric Sullivan. That's why you tuned in. Make sure you hit us in the comments. You're watching this video back later. Let us know how you feel about this hire. Also, Packer fans, do you think we're going to miss him? What are we going to be missing? Essentially, we're going to be missing an extra scouting expert, right? And Brian Gutekunst's right-hand man. And here's the other thing, too, that you got to take into consideration. Schneider, when Schneider left Green Bay and became the general manager for the Seattle Seahawks, right? I think he's had some success. Would we all agree? I mean, this dude, he's won multiple Super Bowls. If I remember correctly, I think they won 2 Super Bowls. They definitely won 1. And you see the season they put together this year. They're kind of competing for the same type of prospects. They got the same philosophy on how to build a roster, right? So you're going to have another person that's going to be poaching from the same list of prospects and how we approach scouting, draft, and development, probably free agency as well. Going to be very, very similar to how the Packers do business. So that's something else you got to take into consideration. I'm excited over the next 3 to 5 years to see how John Eric Sullivan tracks in Miami. And first thing is going to be that head coaching hire. And we'll see if it's Jeff Hafley or not. Hopefully it's not. But again, we'll dive into that a little later. So if you're watching this video back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about this situation if you're a Packer fan? Are you worried? You think, are you worried about losing half? Or maybe you're like, you know what? I think we'll be okay without Hafley. The defense's numbers have not been good this year, guys. I mean, they were great early, and now they've trickled off as injuries set in. Now, I give him a pass for that, just like I give Matt LaFleur a little bit of a pass. How the hell are you going to compete with losing some players at the most important positions, right? You're losing your top edge defender, tier 1 position. 3-tech and Devontae White, tier 1 position. You know, you've had sackbacker problems throughout the year. Quay being a little bit injured as well. You guys know you went out and you spent money in free agency on Nate Hobbs. He was banged up all year, barely got on the field. When he did get on the field, obviously, he goes back on IR. A lot of things have kind of transpired in that regard. Josh Jacobs being banged up since he landed on that concrete out there in New York. A lot of different things coming into play. But let us know in the comments how you feel. Hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future. Let's shift gears now and talk about Micah Parsons. He gave a quick little update on X. Really, really interesting stuff on how he's kind of approaching rehab. And we know this dude is a dog. Like, all the stuff that the Dallas Cowboy fans said, everything the Dallas Cowboy fans said about this guy is not a good locker room guy. He's a bad teammate. He's not a hard worker. He takes plays off. He can't play the run. The back injury, right? Oh, he's got a potentially career-ending back injury. Everything ended up being BS, right? This dude was everything you expected him to be. Unfortunately, he tears the ACL. And when you play the way he plays, and listen, the snap count, when you're playing 85, 90% of the snaps, that type of stuff's going to happen more often, right? You know, that's why Packers, I think, in the past have had this heavy hockey line type rotation when it comes to defensive end, edge defenders, and whatnot. So with that being said, here are the updates. So his most recent tweet was actually, I think it was yesterday, I believe, on January. Actually, no, it was this morning. So he had quote tweeted somebody who said, "What's up, Micah? I don't know if you'll answer this, but I just want to ask, how's the recovery process coming along? and what challenges are you facing as you're going through this recovery process. Wishing you nothing but health the rest of the way. So Micah actually quote tweeted this random tweet and said, "This recovery process is incredibly challenging and painful. Every day I must enter a state of attack mode to endure the excruciating pain. However, I am gradually improving, healing faster than anyone could have anticipated. I feel God's hands all over me through this difficult journey." Absolutely awesome. And listen, let me sum up the tweet. This is hell. This sucks. This is one of the most painful things I've ever had to go through, right? But I'm ahead of schedule, and we're going to continue to attack this thing week in and week out. You guys know he posted a video the other day on IG, and I'm going to play it here. I'll have to mute it, but this is actually him on the bike. And I've seen several tweets going, how the hell is he already doing this on the bike? This is supposed to be something weeks down the road. And you see Micah on the bike trying to strengthen that knee. You see the bandage on the knee from the ACL. Oh, man. You can just see the pain in his freaking eyes right there, right? That's one of the toughest son of a guns in the entire league. And again, the fact that he's already on the bike is so impressive, man. It's absolutely awesome to know this guy's going to be a Green Bay Packer for the long haul. ACLs, in my opinion, we used to say, hopefully they'll get back to 100%. Hopefully they'll be the same player. We're seeing more and more often this year and in the last 5 years, really. To me, it started with Adrian Peterson. You guys remember back in the day when Adrian Peterson shredded his knee, came back way ahead of schedule, like, oh, he ain't going to be the same player. And he was just as good as he was before, in my opinion, at least for those next 2 or 3 years. Same thing with Christian Watson. You know, we were talking about his hands should be better. He'll have a complete 100% understanding of the offense, probably have more time to study rather than out running routes and things like that. I wouldn't expect his route running to get better, and he's probably going to lose a little bit of speed, but he was a world-class athlete, so Christian Watson's going to be as fast, faster than most people on the field anyway. Well, he came back smarter, like we anticipated. He came back with better hands, like we anticipated, probably working on the jugs a little extra. Now he's an even better route runner. And to me, he looks like he hasn't lost a step at all. That's been the big thing with Christian Watson. Is like, I don't want to say he looks faster. Maybe he is. I don't know. But he damn sure doesn't look slower. So you've got him coming back as a recent example. Rashawn Gary came back, and he has stayed somewhat durable. Now, as you get older in age, obviously his play has declined. Micah's nowhere near the level of player that Rashawn Gary is, in terms of, Rashawn Gary's nowhere near the level of player that Micah is, but also he's a little bit longer in the tooth too, obviously. So he's going to start to decline a little bit quicker. I think Micah's going to come back stronger than ever, man. And again, when you look at what he's done throughout his career, and you guys can check this out, this article, if you're having a hard time seeing it here, you can find this over at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. $3 get you access to everything on the site. It's the best way to support what we do here at PTA. Join the community over there, join the conversation over in the chats and all that good stuff. But his PFF grade this year was a 92.0. So on his career, 89, 91, 92, 90, 92. He matched his career high there with a 92 PFF grade this year. At 6'3", 245 is what they have him listed at. He's a former 12th overall pick, obviously, for the Dallas Cowboys. The fact that they let him go is still mind-boggling to me. Essentially, what they ended up doing was trading him for Quinnen Williams. And if you're going to trade him for someone, Quinnen Williams, to me, makes sense. And what I mean by that is they went out and obviously traded, first-round picks for Quinnen Williams. So essentially, you're swapping Micah for Quinnen. They're both tier 1 positions of importance. I can understand saying, okay, let's go get Quinnen if Micah's not going to work out here. But Jerry Jones really screwed the pooch with Micah letting him go. Man, you've seen what has happened to that defense. Now, here's the stat I want to hit. And somebody had commented in the chat earlier. I think it was Nick. Yeah, Nick, what's up, buddy? He says, Clayton, Parsons has 25 more pressures than anyone else on the team, despite being out since the Broncos game. How can they generate more pressure in the playoffs? Because that's a rough stat, LOL. It is a rough stat, right? But it's not just about the Packers. Look at this stat, guys. You want to know how good – first of all, we can't expect other players to do anything near what Micah does because they're not that level of a player. You got to go back to pre-Micah. How did we generate pressure pre-Micah? It was with coffee house looks, AA gap mugs, right? Simulated pressure, meaning we're going to show a all-out blitz, but we're actually only going to bring 4 and drop people into coverage and make quarterbacks read the coverage out. Like the last game there against the Minnesota Vikings, we seen a 99 drop play, right? Where we actually dropped Baron Sorrell into coverage, and he was playing like a 5-tech or something. He wasn't even like a wide 9 dropping out. So you're going to get back to more of that in order to generate pressure to what you're doing with those coffee house, those double A gap mug looks, and even maybe bringing a nickel up on the line or playing the nickel off and sugaring the sandbag or the Mike backer on a blitz, right? Sugaring him and having the nickel off, and then drop the Mike out and bring the nickel on a fire, right? But you're still just bringing 4, you're leaving 7 into coverage. Everybody gets to their spots. Typically with those fire zones, almost always there's no match principles involved, so it is just a country spot drop approach, right? A very, very simple defense. You're going to have to get back to that. But the point is, if you look at what Micah's done here, quarterback pressures on the year, Aiden Hutchinson led the league with 89. Second was Will Anderson. Third was Micah Parsons with 83. Okay? Now, why am I pointing that out? Look at how many games that Aiden Hutchinson played. Aiden Hutchinson played in 17 games. Will Anderson, 17 games. Micah Parsons, only 14 games. Okay? So when you look at the pass rush snaps too, with the 83 quarterback pressures that Micah had, he actually did that on 170 fewer pass rush attempts than Aiden Hutchinson. Think about that. It took Aiden Hutchinson 571 pass rush attempts to get 89 pressures. It only took Micah 401 pass rush attempts for 83 pressures. Will Anderson got to 85 pressures on 436 snaps or pass rushes. So Micah's beating him in quarterback pressure percentage as well. Like when you look at the pressure rate over to the far right over here, Micah, in this list right here of the top 10 pass rushers in terms of quarterback pressures, Micah led the league with 20.7%. You guys know the sack leader, Myles Garrett. Well, how does he stack up against Myles Garrett, Clayton? Myles Garrett's got 23 sacks. Yes, he does. And that is an unbelievable number, the new single-season record, right? But look, Myles Garrett played 70 more snaps than Micah Parsons, and look at the quarterback pressure rate. Micah Parsons, 20.7%, Myles Garrett, 16.3%. That's a wild stat. So, Nick, to get back to your question there, you're not going to be able to generate pressure like you did with Micah. Now, you're asking, how do you generate more pressure? Because that's a rough stat. I agree. You got to give more coffee house looks, and you got to do more fire zone, not blitzing, but fire zone. I'll call it a fire zone blitz. That's the easiest way to describe it. A fire zone blitz is when you're showing pressure and then you drop those guys out and you're bringing other people on the look. Right now, a blitz is technically 5 pass rushers or more. We were doing fire zone blitzes or simulated pressure with only a 4-man rush. It might be the left defensive end dropping into coverage with the nickel firing. It might be the right defensive end dropping into coverage with the will firing, right? And what you're doing is you're forcing the quarterback to post-snap read. I think that's the answer. Now, you're not going to play that 100% of the time, but that's what we did last year, and we had a solid defense, a top 10 defense, right? You're going to have to get back to that in the playoffs. And no better time to do it than with Caleb this week. The problem with this is you've got to make sure somebody's on a touch spot or a contain. You've got to make sure that you keep him in the will. Make him throw from within the pocket as you compress it. So I understand the concern, but at the same time, I want to be realistic here in saying you're not going to be able to generate pressure the way you did with Micah, because what Micah's done, nobody's done it across the league in terms of quarterback pressure percentage. It's just an unbelievable stat. And then, of course, Micah threw this up. It's been pinned for quite some time now. I love it. Just a daily reminder for him, right? He just put September with the salute emoji. And, of course, it shows the line with the scars on the nose and the lips, the scar across the eye, just a beaten up and battered line. My man's going to be out there September 1. There's no doubt in my mind Micah Parsons will be out there and ready to roll on September the 1st. I'm excited to see it too. So that's just a little update on Micah Parsons and everything that's going on there from his social media account. If you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments. How do you feel about Micah? You think he'll be back in September? You think he'll be closer to October? What do you think about his rehab process up to this point? And make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you don't miss anything here at PTA when we go live. All right, now let's shift gears, talk a little Packers Bears here. I'm excited to get into this. We've kind of held off a little bit. We're going to try to get into it a little bit later. If we can do a show tonight, that's my goal. But I want to talk Packers defense against the Bears offense for a second, okay? And we're going to pop up the PFF preview here for you guys and gals just to kind of put it on the screen. When you look at the offense, boys, that's a lot of green on Chicago's side. They're playing really, really they're playing great top 10 offensive football. There's no denying that. All right, let's start at the quarterback position. Caleb Williams, 75.5. He is the 16th highest graded PFF quarterback as it sits today. That's where he is ranking currently. You got Swift in the background or in the backfield at running back at an 81.0. He's the 11th highest graded running back in the league as it sits right now. The big focal point, there's two big focal points of this offense. Luther Burden is a dog, and Colston Loveland is going to be a great tight end. Colston Loveland, 81.1. Luther Burden, 79.3. Luther Burden has just been a dominant force at the wide receiver position. Now, listen, it doesn't mean we got to like him, right? He's kind of, I don't want to say he's a dirty player, but he probably is a dirty player. He's one of those guys that tries to put a quarter in the defenders, right, constantly. But when we look at the draft from last year, we had Luther Burden as the third best wide receiver. I remember catching a little bit of flack like that. They felt like he was a little undersized. No, there's other better prospects. You know, a lot of people fell in love with the bigger receivers, and rightfully so, like your Jaden Higginses, your Trey Harris's, guys like that. But Luther Burden was a stud, man. Like I said, we had him at number 3. So our wide receivers in this order, we had Tet McMillan 1, Emeka Egbuka 2, Luther Burden 3, Matthew Golden 4 is how our wide receiver board. And I think they all fell pretty much in order too, if I remember correctly. I'm almost positive on that, which was really cool to see. And then, of course, after that, you had Jaden Higgins and Trey Harris. So Luther Burden, he's a stud. That's what this offense goes through. But the reason those guys are able to make those plays is this offensive line up front. From left to right, you got Trapillo, 70.0. Tooney, 79.4. There were a lot of fans that were like, what are they doing paying all that money for Tooney? He's old. Tooney's won multiple Super Bowls, and this dude is a vet's vet. When we talk about getting older as a team and trying not to be the youngest roster in the league, these are the type of players I'm talking about bringing in. You bring in 1 or 2 guys like that with some Super Bowl experience, you may have to overpay a little bit. As long as he's great, you're willing to overpay for great. You're not willing to overpay for good. You got somebody like in Tooney. Let's see if they actually overpaid for him. Look at those grades, guys. Seriously. And I know people were going – now, I want you to think about this when we get into the offseason, because there's going to be people who go, oh, he's too old. He's too old. Just like in the draft. Oh, they're too old, right? He is 33 years old, and look at how many snaps he's played this year, guys. He's played 1,149 snaps. And look at the PFF grades throughout his career. 65, 74, 77, 79, 74, 81, 78, 74, 80, 79. You got to tip your cap. That was a great signing by the Chicago Bears. Drew Dahlman, you guys know that was one of our top free agent. He was on our list, right? Again, PFF up to this year had him 78, 65, 82, 78. Center out of Atlanta. Let's go give him the bag. Let's go pay him. We talked about that. Why? Center's a position of tier 2 importance, right? So on offense, quarterback, tackles, then center, those in that order, right? Is a level of importance. This year, 77.5 is his PFF grade. And people probably thought, well, how old is he? He's 27 years old. Do you really want to pay somebody a 4-year deal? They're 27 years old. He has logged 1,154 snaps. I don't mean to sound like an ass here, but I get frustrated when people talk about, well, if you sign an older player, they're more likely to get hurt. Have we not seen so many rookie players get hurt? Like, think about that. Think about how many injuries we've had to deal with over the year. Like Zach Tom is a young football player, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't draft Zach Tom. I'm not saying you shouldn't look for the next Zach Tom, but that can happen just as much as a veteran. In some cases, veterans have more experience to stay out of harm's way, right? They know how to play. They know how to play with people around their feet. They know when to really amp it up and when to let off a little bit and protect themselves. That's just stuff that happens, right? So with that being said, yeah, there you go. Marshawn Lloyd, right? Another one. You go out. Well, we don't want to go out and get a 28-year-old running back because, he's older. He's going to be hitting the wall soon. Yes, he will. And the guaranteed money will be up, and then you can cut him loose. Well, we go draft a stud 21-year-old running back, right? Okay. Well, we know he'll stay healthy. He's young. Bet me, injuries happen. You got to find the best players, the most proven players, and just go out there and build your roster that way. So it's disappointing for me as a Packer fan to know that we had our eyes on Dahlman and we really wanted him. I didn't have my eyes on Tooney. I'm not going to sit here and play Monday morning quarterback. I'm simply saying when people approached it like, look at all these old guys that are signing, like, can they play football? All right, cool. Old doesn't mean bad. Old means when I hear old, I don't hear here's a guy that might get hurt. Here's a guy that's close to the end. When I hear old and you go back and you look at his experience, all right, how often has he been healthy? How good has he been? Right? All those things. I look at that stuff and I go, okay. Old means experienced, right? Old means, well, he's proven he knows how to stay healthy, right? Old means locker room guy. Old means leadership, right? You got a young offensive lineman next to a young offensive lineman. It's the blind leading the blind. But when you got a veteran out there to help pull those guys along, that stuff can be huge. And again, nothing is like a slam dunk. This, you should go in 100% to do things this way. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply pointing out you need a good sprinkle of these guys into your roster for sure. And then, of course, I think this is Darnell Wright. Yeah, Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. There's a lot of people bashing him in the drafting process because he had a little bit of a different personality. I made a couple calls down here in Tennessee. I'm just about an hour and a half north of Knoxville. Emilio's a lot closer to me, but I made a couple calls that covered the UT Vols and asked about Darnell Wright, just like I did James Pierce Jr. You guys remember James Pierce Jr.? There was like, worried about his. I'm pretty sure he was the player of the month this month. Dude had an awesome month down there. I think he's in Atlanta. But Darnell Wright was one of those guys that you look at in the draft process, and I thought he looked good. So 62, 79, 81 has been his PFF grades. He's a stud this year, 81.9. That's Zach Tom type grades, right? It is what it is. So Chicago has gotten the offensive line right, and that's why their offense, I think, is performing even better than ever. Now, DJ Moore should be good to go. He's a 65.8. Rome Odunze with a 70.8 PFF grade. Another receiver that's performing pretty damn well, right? And again, he was the draft pick last year, right? If I remember correctly, he was one of the top picks. So isn't it wild? You took a swing on Rome Odunze with the 9th overall pick, 70.8, not bad. Now he's battling some injuries, right? And then you get Luther Burden, second round pick 39. So Luther Burden actually fell below Matthew Golden. So we took Matthew Golden over Luther Burden. That's very interesting there, right? We took, and listen, Matthew Golden hasn't got near the amount of opportunities that Luther Burden has, in my opinion, in terms of targets, things like that. That'll come with time. But our board suggested you should have took Luther Burden over Matthew Golden. I'm glad we got Golden. I think Matthew Golden's going to be a stud football player. That's just my personal opinion. So that's a look at their offense. Now, how do they match up against our defense? Here we go. PFF grade-wise, guys, you look at who we've got available compared to theirs. There's a lot more green for them than there is us, right? Let's start up front. This is what PFF is showing as our starting defensive front from right to left from the defense's perspective. Enig-Barre, 63.6. Carl Brooks, 47.5. Lucas Van Ness, 75.5. They've got him listed as one of the interior pass rushers in our nickel 4-2-5. I love that. I hope they actually roll with that. In all honesty, it'll probably be LVN opposite of Rashawn Gary for the majority of the day, and you'll sprinkle in some of these other guys. I say majority of the day. You know how they do their heavy rotation. Everybody will get pretty similar snaps that they have in the past, right? Rashawn Gary, a 68.2 is what his PFF grade's at. We've talked about Gary. Packers, I think there's a reasonable chance the Packers move on from Gary after this year. If he's willing to take a pretty big pay cut, you'd like to have him back. I would love to have him back for the right pay cut because, again, he's been a good run defender. He's been one of those guys when you look at he leads our defensive line in run stops and quarterback pressures other than Micah, of course. So he's still doing what he's done. But you could see the trend now, right? 89, 82, 79, 73, 68. Looks like Rashawn Gary's best football is behind him. He's played 652 snaps this year. You can kind of see the snap count. It has started to – it's kind of tapered down. Now, the one that he had the least amount of snaps in was week 12 where he only had, 32 snaps. And then last week he had 34 snaps, so that's pretty close, right? However, as recent as week 13, he did have 44 snaps in that game. Now, you can see at the beginning of the year, a lot more snaps, right? You had 47 snaps. And then you had, 43 snaps. And then you drop down to however many that is, 44 snaps. You can see it kind of blimps back up week 7 and starts to taper off again. writing's kind of on the wall. It looks like Rashawn Gary at 28 years old, starting to run out of gas. Now, the contract's structured in a way that you can move on this year if you want to. You can free up $10 million if you just cut him outright. But if you can restructure and get him back for the right price, I think that's the approach they'll take. We'll probably hear about that fairly early in the offseason. We'll kind of get an idea of whether or not they're going to bring him back. But nonetheless, Gary with the 68.5. What you're looking for, guys, are your players to grade out in the 60s. What you want to stay away from are those 40s, right? 40s are the big killer. 50s are bad. Don't get me wrong. 40s is like, all right, what the hell are we doing here? Okay. So Kobe Wooden, in my opinion, will be the defender right here where Carl Brooks is. Now, if we switch it up the base, it may show him in there. 49.8. Now, some of the other stats, a run stop, suggest that's a low grade for Kobe Wooden and how he's actually played this year. But again, who else are you going to put on the inside? Baron Sorrell, you can mix and match there a little bit too. But when you're in your base 4-3, probably going to be Kobe Wooden and Carl Brooks. You'll sprinkle in some Warren Brinson, maybe a little Nas Stackhouse will be the approach you take, especially against Chicago, who, listen, guys, they're going to go to a 12 personnel. And when they do, that's Cole Kmet at a 65. Cole Kmet's a solid football player. Cole Kmet's the 34th highest graded tight end in the league right now. Colston Loveland is sitting in that 6th spot, right? So just wanted to point that out in the base package. That's what it looks like. Let's go back to nickel for a second. So Carl Brooks, weak spot in the defense. Where's the next 40 at? It's our boy Quay Walker, 48.5. Now, I know there's a lot of people that disagree with the PFF grade. I think it's extremely low. And just theoretically speaking, watching the tape for me personally, looking at the tape and how Quay plays, I think it should be somewhere in the 50s. So I think they're a little bit cruel to him with that 48.5, but I don't think he is a starting caliber stack backer with the way he's played. I've seen enough. I have. Now, the Packers offered him a contract. We don't know how much that is, right? Maybe we'll find out that number soon enough, but he did not accept that, which tells me they see his value significantly lower than he sees it. I would be okay with bringing Quay Walker back for the right price, $5-6 million per. That's where I'm down to now, guys. The defense played better with Isaiah McDuffie in the lineup. Like if we go to our base, let's see what it throws in here. There's McDuffie, 69.4. He's the 30th highest graded linebacker. That is a starting caliber linebacker. That's a number 1 caliber linebacker. You know, obviously there's only 32 teams. So if you spread them out evenly across the league, he would be a guy that would be a starting stack backer on one of the, bottom 2 teams that go last if you were doing like a fantasy draft for a player, right? So again, I would like to see McDuffie out there over Walker. That's just me. Will it happen? No, it won't. I think they'll still put Walker out there. I hope that they continue to give McDuffie a shot to play ball out there, though, too, and Tyron Hopper as well. It just feels like the defense played better with McDuffie out there. That's just my personal opinion. Also, I feel like McDuffie is a better run defender than Quay Walker. Like when we look at run defense here and the run defense grade, 69.0 for Isaiah McDuffie. He's actually been really good in the pass rush when they have fired him on a mock blitz, 71.4 pass rush grade. Coverage grade is 63, so he's definitely more of a run stopper than a pass defender. When you look at Quay's coverage grade has been a 44.9. His pass rush grade is a 62. His run defense grade, 54.5. So, again, I think Quay Walker, this is probably his last year in Green Bay. I think there's a decent chance he hits free agency and they don't bring him back, right? Now, the stud in this stack backer room is obviously Edgerrin Cooper. Last year had an elite 85.6, took a step back this year to a 75.7. Boys, that's a pretty good sophomore slump when you go to a 75.7. But if you're wondering, why did he dip? Last year, if I remember correctly, his pass rush grade was through the roof. Why? We were doing those simulated pressures we talked about, right? The fire zone blitzes, the coffee house looks. I expect that to amp back up. Therefore, his overall grade will increase as well. So with the pass rush grade, they probably got him doing a little touch spine from time to time. I've noticed that a little bit on the tape. Like it'll look like he's firing, but actually it's like what we call a green dog. And if the running back is showing a little hesitation, like he's going to leak out in the flat, then he can't just all out blitz. A green dog blitz is you're blitzing if the running back stays in, which that's supposed to be your assignment. It could be a match call, a zone match call. It could be just a straight man coverage call. But your guy's a running back. He's staying in the block. Once you know, okay, he's definitely staying in the block, you fire off in blitz too. So in some cases, he's starting to fire, watching a running back. Oh crap, he's going to leak, and now he's just kind of surveying the situation, if you will, right? So I think that's why you've seen the pass rush grade go down, because they let Micah kind of eat this year, and they just bring their normal pass rush and drop 7 into coverage. with Micah being out through the playoffs, don't be surprised if you see Edgerrin Cooper rush a little bit more. Okay. And again, it doesn't mean we're blitzing 5. It just simply means you might fire him and then drop Enigbari into coverage, right? Or drop LVN into coverage and run a little coffee house look. So again, Edgerrin Cooper, the best backer on this team. I'd like to see him go out and try to replace Quay Walker, whether it's in free agency for a decent player, or maybe even try to utilize the draft again. Remember, you found Edgerrin Cooper in the second round, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah, 45th overall pick in the second round. In terms of DBs and how they're going to match up against these receivers, everybody likes to pile on the DB room. I don't think the DB room is the problem, right? The biggest issue we have with the defense, in my opinion, is in the middle up front, and I've been very vocal about this, right? Carl Brooks, Kobe Wooden, those guys, they're just not good enough. They're not dominant three. There's no dominant 3-tech on this team. Even when Devontae Wyatt was out there, he wasn't a dominant 3-tech. He was I feel good saying a very good pass rusher, very good to great pass rusher, not so much in run defense, just my personal opinion. All right. You want a dude that's a force in there that teams are constantly having to throw a double team on. Now they got to choose between Micah and him. So another thing, when you talk about the pressure rate that Nick McSwain was talking about in the chat earlier, another reason that's dropped is because your best interior pass rusher in Devontae Wyatt's on IR, right? As soon as he leaves, those numbers go down as well. Probably warranted a little extra attention inside that was freeing up other stuff for other people. But nonetheless, you're hoping that LVN can come in and kind of help fill that void a little bit when they do kick him inside from time to time. But back to the DBs. Carrington Valentine, 65. Javon Bullard, 64. Keyshawn Nixon, 67, right? So what you've got there, guys, is a room full of number 2 corners. There's no corners there that's grading out like a top 32 corner. So again, you can scheme around that. I could care less about having a true number 1 corner, right? A guy that's a shutdown corner. I don't think that's as important as people think, because you're not going to play predominantly man coverage. Therefore, they're going to take away the number 1 target. That those days are gone in Green Bay. You might do it occasionally, but you're going to be kind of playing guys at left and right. Now, obviously, our boy Trayvon Diggs is not on this list. He's graded out bad on the year in the 50s. However, his one game with Green Bay, he graded out in the 80s. So I would list him as our number 1 corner, but I still don't look at Trayvon Diggs as a shutdown corner by no stretch of the imagination. So what you'll probably see here, if Bullard is good to go and playing on Saturday night, tomorrow night, it's wild that it's already here, right? Tomorrow? Yeah, Saturday night. If Bullard plays, he'll be in the slot, okay? And you're going to see, I think what you're going to see is Trayvon Diggs on the right side where Valentine is, and you'll have Keyshawn starting on the left. And they might be a little bit of a rotation, but I think that's the role. That's what they're going to go with. Now, if for some reason Bullard gives it a go, or if he can't go, pregame, nope, can't do it. So they just, deactivate him or what have you, right? He's not listed as active in our pregame show. If that happens, you're going to see Nixon, I think, kick into the slot, and then you'll probably put Trayvon Diggs on the left side. That's interesting because Trayvon is predominantly played on the right side where Carrington's at. So if he's forced to play the left, might not get the best version of Trayvon Diggs. That's just something else to put in the memory bank there, okay? And then, of course, at the safety position, man, these are the unsung heroes. You want to know why the run defense is kept up all year long, why they played really, really well? It's because of the safeties and how they played to run. Xavier McKinney, run defense grade, 82.7. His overall PFF grade is 80.6. He's the 9th highest graded safety. He's a stud, continuing to do his thing. Again, run defense grade 82.7. Evan Williams is one of those guys that did not play against the Bears in that last game we played them, right? If I remember correctly. He didn't play in that game, and that's a big loss. What does Chicago do really, really well? They run the freaking football, right? That's their bread and butter. They want to run the rock, and they do it very, very well with that 2-headed monster in Monangai and Swift. Now, with that being said, look at Evan Williams' run defense grade, 82.1. We've kind of come full circle. So throughout the draft process, I remember when we drafted Evan Williams on our draft show, our live draft coverage, we immediately pulled up his college tape and we started looking at the highlights. And the thing that stood out to me was, man, he's a hell of a run defender. And boy, he harassed the heck out of Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams' last game that he played against Evan, which Evan was with Oregon, if I remember correctly. So it was like, great run defender. Where's the passing game highlights? Where are the picks? Where are the PBUs? I was a little down on his coverage. Like, okay, he's going to be a good run defender, but he's going to be down on coverage. Last year, he shut me the heck up, right? He played great in coverage last year. This year, I don't think he's been bad. A 63.6 is his coverage grade. And I apologize if the stream starts lagging a little bit. I'm going to pull up another site real quick. Let me know in the chat, is there any lagging in my camera right now? I did some optimization to the computer. As I'm scrolling through these real quick, let me know in the chat if there's any lagging whatsoever. I'll try to take a peek. I appreciate the feedback there. So what I'm going to do is off to the side, pull up DBs over on NFL Pro. All right, we're going to go qualified defenders only, and we're going to go passer rating when targeted. Let's see what his passer rating when targeted is. This year, Xavier McKinney is 6th best in the league with a 40.0 passer rating allowed, okay? And then you've got our boy, where is he? Where's Evan Williams? So Evan Williams, he seems to be a little lower on the list here. Going on down. Where are you? So I thought you were higher than that. Are you serious? Is he really that low? Give me just a second. We got to find him here. Evan Williams, there you go. 96.8. Amongst all defensive backs, this includes cornerbacks and safeties, Evan Williams' passer rating when targeted has dipped to a 96.8. That's 133rd best. So his coverage has not been great this year. But again, when he's on the football field, this defense plays awesome. I mean, he plays awesome. So, again, run defense is his strength. We kind of knew that going out, coming out of the draft when he was taken. But still, when you're grading out a 72 and a 70, that's solid PFF grades. I want to see him take that next step next year, though. I want to see him crack into the 80s and stay into the 80s. That would be absolutely awesome if he could pull that off. So, again, Evan Williams, another vital part of stopping the run here against the Chicago Bears. So, again, what do you have with the Chicago Bears? Their strength as a team is their offense. Their defense is cheeks other than taking the ball away. They're best in the league at taking the football away, right? Forcing turnovers. In terms of passing defense, running defense, they're outside of the top 25. I think they're 28th in both, 28th and 27th, maybe around that mark. So again, if you protect the football, you should be able to move the football on this team. If you protect the football, you win the turnover differential. I like our chances of winning this game in Chicago. I think it's going to be a lot closer than some people think, though. Right now, the Packers are 1-point favorites. In terms of the most recent money that's in on this, 69% of the public, 69% of the money that the public's betting on this game is on the Bears plus 1.5. Now, you guys know that when 60% or more of the public's money is on one side of the spread, it more times than not, to the tune of like 4 out of 6 times, the house wins that bet, meaning the team that less money is on, in this case, the Packers at 31% and minus 1.5, it would suggest you have a better chance of the Packers covering that 1.5 point spread than the Bears winning plus 1.5. Again, it's not a slam dunk, but just an interesting little nugget there of how the house kind of dominated. They have in the regular season this year. They've dominated. Doesn't mean it's going to happen in the playoffs. It's a whole different ballgame now, right? So that is a quick little preview of the Packers, Bears, obviously the Bears offense and the Packers defense, how they match up. Let us know in the comments if you're watching this back later. How do you feel about this matchup? How do you feel this game's going to go? Are you feeling comfortable as a Packer fan? Is this something that, I don't like the way this one's shaking out? We want to hear from you in the comments. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future. I see a little bit of Malik Willis talk. And thank you so much, Joseph. Appreciate you, buddy. He said no lag on my end. Good deal. I was getting reports that it was lagging a little bit. The camera was yesterday, and I went through and tried to clean some stuff up. Emilio helped this dumb redneck get some stuff cleaned up. Every show that we do, I have to download the audio, upload it to a website for all the podcast listeners. The videos I try to break down into segments. If you'll notice, we'll do segments in case you guys don't have time to tune in live. You just want to catch one segment, a 10-minute video. We got that at your disposal. We're trying to make it as convenient as everybody's possible. But all that stuff was still on my PC, so I had to go through and clean all that up and all that stuff. Just try to optimize a little bit. But thank you so much for that. J. Cole said, that's just what we need, another receiver, LOL. I'm just trying to catch up with the chat here a little bit. So it looks like the talk about Malik Willis, Steve knows the policy, says we will have to tag him first. And I think they're talking about trading Malik Willis, right? We can only trade him if we franchise tag him. That is correct. I do not see a situation, guys, where you franchise tag Malik Willis. You don't have the cap room to carry that for the time being. That's a real – I would love to see it, be able to trade him for a second-round pick or a first-round pick. That'd be absolutely awesome. I think it's going to be something that we're just going to have to kind of bite the bullet. He's going to hit free agency. We'll get a comp pick in 2027 will be my guess. We got Rob in here from GBP Daily. What's up, Rob? Good to see you, buddy. He says Packers 31, Bears 20. I need that in my life, sir. I need that. I need us to go into Chi-Town and beat them by a couple scores. That would be absolutely awesome, man. That would be awesome. Joseph in the chat. Edgerrin, pick 6 tomorrow. Give it to me, man. Are you serious? Edgerrin Cooper with a pick 6. He said, I'm calling my shot. I love it, dude. I need that energy too. So let's see what Cannonball John says. Don't force those needle throws. Get one-on-one with Dobbs and Watson and go, Pack, go. And run the rock, right? Josh Jacobs is the healthiest he's been in 6 weeks. If they load the box, throw it all over the yard. If they don't, and they just kind of play it vanilla, play it normal, run the ball down their throat, man. But I'm with you. Look at it. Steve in the chat says Diggs pick 6. How cool would that be, man? That's what Diggs' superpower is. He's got great hands. He's got great size. He can read the ball well. He's a former 4-star receiver before they switched him to cornerback. Before Derek Ansley switched him to cornerback, our passing game coordinator was the secondary coach for Trayvon Diggs at Alabama, along with Xavier McKinney. Pretty cool how that all ties together there, right? Yep. 55 Reaver says, got to agree on no turnovers, and it's a Packers win. Amen to that. Amen. I think that's where it's going to come down to. Chris, the casual in, says, Malik Willis, red zone QB1 Saturday night. How cool would that be? Hey, I see what you're doing there, Chris. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a little package where they throw Malik Willis in there. You get inside the 5, where we really inside the red zone in general. It's just a tough sell to take Jordan Love off the field at any point for me, man. I mean, for how many snaps he's played this year, and I've already got it dropped down, but I'll kind of pull it up off to the side here real quick. For how many snaps he's played this year, and we'll do an offensive breakdown tonight. So he has played 890 snaps this year with an 88.5. I mean, this dude has played so freaking consistent this year. It's just hard to take Jordan Love off the field for me, man. I understand where you're coming from, Chris, but I think I would have to disagree if you're telling me, all right, when you get inside the 20, pull Jordan Love off the field, put Malik Willis in. I would be excited if they did it. Like, oh, boy, let's see how this goes. But I want Jordan Love out there. I want him out there reading the defense. I want him out there putting us in the best position possible. He's played such good football this year. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it. We're going to get out of here. Appreciate everybody jumping in. If you would, hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon. Thanks to everybody in the live chat for jumping in on short notice. And we'll probably be back later when we get a little bit more breaking news. Anything breaks like this John Eric Sullivan one did, I was like, man, told Mandy, got to get upstairs, got to talk to the guys about this, the guys and the gals about this. We'll see what everybody's take is on it. So we want to hear from y'all in the comments about that. And I'll try to get the guys together maybe tonight. We'll see at some point. I'll try to post it in the Patreon group. I've been doing that a little bit better. In the general chat, we got multiple chats over there. I'll try to let y'all know, hey, we're going to go live at this time. Hey, about to go live. That just give y'all a little heads up there in that regard. But I do know this, the channel does notify you if you've got the bell icon clicked. It will let you know like 30 minutes in advance before we're going to go. So I'll try to give everybody 30 minutes notice at least moving forward. So appreciate everybody. Hit that like button for us. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack, go.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.